All right, so now that we've got some of the basic values of this enamel kind of roughed in, I want to go ahead and start chipping some of the paint off so that we can see under the metal underneath it. And to do that, I'm going to go to my top layer here, my enamel orange layer, the folder here. And I'm going to be in my smart masks, and I'm going to grab gun edges, which is just one of the presets, and I'm going to drop it in to the mask. And you can see it's showing up over here because I need to change my blending mode here to, I believe it's going to be like either a multiply or an add. Yes. Okay. So now it's showing up here where it's supposed to show up. And the reason for that is if I'm doing a multiply, and we look at this, anything that you multiply times 0 becomes 0, and anything you multiply by 1 stays the same value. So this is just a nice way to blend this in. However, as you can see, it's kind of the opposite of what I want. I don't want to have just a little bit of the paint showing through. I want to have mostly paint and then just a little bit of scratches here and there. So you can go to Global Invert after clicking on your mask and turn that on, and then you get something that looks like this, which is a pretty reasonable place to begin here. And we can try Paint Old here. And once again, we will need to invert it and set it to a multiply. So I like where this is going. Feels maybe a little bit too much. Like this area here, I wouldn't expect the flat areas to be quite that beat up. Also, there's a little bit of a tiny amount of height here in the paint itself that I would kind of like to see represented here in our paint. So I'm going to go over to my color and let's see. I guess once you set the value, do I need metal line? Yeah, I need to have metal line here. So I'm going to add height, and we can just add like a tiny amount. You can see it becomes fairly noticeable even at a very low value. And then I'm going to add a fill here, and we'll hop over to grunges. And what I'm looking for is something that's fairly high contrast. Well, maybe not fairly high contrast, but something that has like strong lights and strong darks. That's probably not the right one. I just kind of want to punch out what's going on with some of the edge wear. That might work. All right, so I'm going to just drag this up into my fill. Ooh, that's got a crazy pattern on it. I couldn't really see that. Well, let's tie a little bit. Let's play with the balance. And then set it to subtract. Sorry, I don't think it's subtract. So what I want is to kind of fill some of the stuff in procedurally. If I have to, I'll paint it out. But if I can just sort of run through here and try to find one. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be specific enough. So what I'm going to do is just add a paint layer here and go to my brushes. When all this fails, the tool is called Substance Painter. And just probably one of these dirt patterns or something where there isn't like a real noticeable alpha involved. Like that one would probably show it pretty visibly. That's going to work just fine. And I want to be painting probably white. Yeah. You know, you don't want to get rid of all of it, but I think we still, like if you look at the reference here, it's mostly painted. And it looks like there's something, I think because this is, I'm going to try this one instead. Something that's a little bit higher contrast. So I feel like I'm leaving a little bit of the wear there, and I really want it to either be like, yes, I'm chipped, or no, I'm not chipped. Although I'm going to add some variation. I don't know what you're doing there. I wonder if I painted that on accident. Probably I did. So I'll just paint it out. So now that I'm looking at this, I sort of want there to be a little bit more of a brighter metal underneath where this stuff is punching through. Not 100%, but it would be cool if that wasn't so grungy there. So what I'm going to do is hop back down on my base metal here, and I've got my dirt. I'm going to add another paint down here and set this to black. And this is just an experiment, but it would be cool if I could kind of knock this funk back a little bit. You know, leave a little bit of it there, but it's still nice to have some. And I'm not affecting the paint, right? So that, like, you know, I can be a little bit sloppy here, not modify what's going on with the paint layer. And then come over. There's a way that, in fact, I'll probably try to have a demonstration of this in this project somewhere, where you can have a mask sitting in one layer, and then you can basically instance it into another layer. So, you know, if I could have like a scratch in one layer that was informing the behavior in another layer, and that is it's easy to do, and it's really, really powerful. But it's a little bit outside of what I want to talk about right this minute. So let's kind of see where we're at. So we're getting, one of the nice things about using a procedural approach is you're not going to, even if you've got symmetry turned on, you're not going to have the same stuff showing up. But obviously the places where I just painted, that is going to be symmetrical, but I don't even think you can really tell. However, looking at it now, I'm feeling like some of this, like the thickness on that is just a little bit too consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one, let's see, what was that? That was the, we'll just call this like add, because that's where we're sort of replacing the paint, and then I'm going to make a new paint layer here. Actually, this is exactly where I want to put it. Because what I want to do is I want to add paint back in here. So I'm going to set this to painting white. Just because I really don't want there to be this perfectly, you know, if you blur your eyes, it's like the exact same thickness, and that's sort of where people begin to suspect that you maybe got a little bit lazy with your procedural stuff. So to just kind of go in there and break it up a little bit, it's never a bad idea. It is not contrasty enough. Like if I come over, I'm seeing a lot of this gray stuff, which I definitely don't want. So very, very quickly, I'm going to come over and add a filter. And we can try two things. I'm going to try first a sharpen, which is kind of doing what I want. Intensity is kind of a lot on the sharpen. And the other thing, I'm just going to turn that off and leave it there and try a brightness contrast, which I believe exists. There we go, just contrast. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, all right, cool. Well, we will pick this up in the next video, and I think I'll probably add some variation to our paint color here, and maybe a little bit of this dust and stuff. So stick around for that.